Hello and welcome to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. Matt Ham with you today, live on the air. You may notice Kevin Adams, the co-founder of Uprint, my dear friend, mentor, is not with us today, but that's because we have some incredible guests, and we are going to be joined by them here in a minute, so we so appreciate you guys tuning in. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then the show is broadcast every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. This is all about the work of our organization, Uprint, and our nonprofit entity, the Life Center. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Life Center and that work and just how God is moving in it, and it's really exciting. And I'm so pumped to share that with you, along with a couple of incredible human beings that are dear friends and family members to us. And so before we kick off, though, I want to recognize our corporate partners for making this show possible and also just being a part of the work that we do. So everything you see today is a result of folks just pouring in and providing resources as they feel led, and we're grateful for that. First of all, Dr. Greg Veman of Seacoast Skin Surgery and his ministry, Everlasting Strength. You can connect with Dr. V on the web at everlastingstrength.org. Also, Chris Hutchins and his team at Guaranteed Rate Mortgage, more than 20 years experience in the mortgage business. If you have any needs there, you can reach out to Chris and his team, 910-344-0304. Also, Century 21 Swalyer & Associates, 30 years experience, family-owned and operated real estate firm here in the Carolinas, the largest Century 21 agency in the Carolinas, 910-256-0021. And also Freeman Landscaping, the largest privately held landscaping irrigation firm in eastern North Carolina, family-owned and operated since 1992. So that being said, as I mentioned, today is a kind of a unique episode or broadcast of the show. We are going to be talking with Rachel Mayo during the first segment, and Rachel is one of our Life Center community leaders. And so Rachel is calling in actually from Nashville, Tennessee. Rachel, have we got you on the line?
Yes, sir. Hey, Matt.
What is happening, friend? How you doing today?
Oh, my goodness. I'm doing so good and so excited to be on the radio with you today.
Well, listen, you are just a ball of joy and energy everywhere you go. And it's just been so incredible to get to know you, but also to see you grow and just to see how the Lord is using you. And we're just really pumped today to share with our audience just what the Lord's doing through the Life Center, through the Life Center communities, and specifically some of the portable communities that you're going to be a part of helping us really launch and birth. So we're going to get into that. But all that being said, so let's start a little bit, go back. Let's turn back the dial a little bit and share with our listeners today a little bit about yourself and kind of the testimony of how we got to where we are today.
Sure. Well, it's incredible. Whenever I think about how I've come to where I am today, I really have to rewind, 5 years ago that I guess you and I met in person. You came to Nashville to a conference that I helped plan, and that's where I met you. And God really knew what he was doing when he orchestrated all of that. So you and I met at a conference in 2015. And in 2018, I went through a major life change. My marriage blew up. I was feeling helpless and hopeless, and I just had no idea where to go or what to do. And, God can use literally anything for good. I know that people look at Facebook right now and they're like, whew, Facebook, it is a trash fire. But I remember one night I had nowhere to go. I opened Facebook out of habit, and you had posted something, and I thought, Matt Ham, I need to talk to Matt Ham. So I sent you a message, and we talked, and you said, you know what, Rachel, you really got to talk to Kevin. And I did. I talked to Kevin very soon after, and he led me to a place of not feeling so desperate and hopeless. I was still very much in the spot where I needed a lot of help. But gosh, that one little conversation, and I shouldn't say little, it was big and magnificent in many ways. That one conversation changed the whole trajectory of what walking through that divorce and becoming a single mom could have looked like for me. At the time that my ex-husband and I split up, I was pregnant. So I was walking through a pregnancy somewhat alone, and not just a pregnancy, but a high-risk pregnancy. I have a chronic illness. I have type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 18 years old, and I've had it for 15 years. So for your friends who are listening who are good at math, you know how old I am. But it was just a lot for me to handle all at once. And I couldn't have done it without the help of you and Kevin, and what you print in the Life Center actually pours into people. And so that said, 2 years later, I am so excited to be able to take what you guys have poured into me and pour into other people.
Yeah. Well, friend, I mean, I'm sitting here like holding back just such emotion at just the gratitude that I feel to be a part of what the Lord's doing through someone like yourself. You know, it's interesting, Rachel, because a lot of folks ask us, you know, Kevin and I both, what do you guys do? What do you do? What do you do? And that's part of just the normal conversation, right? And when you're walking out kind of innovative territory, and when you're leading, it's often that, you know, folks might not understand it early, right? And that's certainly been our experience. But you, my friend, are an absolute expression of our heart and what we do. And so for you, yes, for you stepping in and being courageous enough and vulnerable enough and willing to go, hey, I really need some help and I'm just hungry. You know, to talk a little bit about you and Kevin now have been meeting once a week, I guess, about that, you know, for a couple of years. Part of the process of the Life Center is to not only come alongside people and walk with them spiritually, but to remove the obstacles that are standing in their way physically as well. And so that's something that you've experienced. So just talk a little bit about how did this thing begin to birth in you, where you started to see the true Rachel awakening underneath the circumstances?
You know, walking with Kevin, I have been meeting with him for once a week, almost weekly, with the exception of the time my son was born.
Yes.
And that's been such a treasure to me. But when I was first talking with Kevin, you know, the goal is to move forward. You want to keep taking steps forward. But I was in a place where I just needed to get to the neutral zone. I felt like every time I was taking a step forward, something happened. I mean, you can ask Kevin. It's like every week I talked to him, we would start to talk about dreaming and vision casting, if you will, and then something would happen and it would knock me back, and I would just need to get back to neutral territory. But in that process, what I was really learning was the patterns of me stepping into my faith and me stepping into who I am as a person, and the enemy really hating that.
Yes.
So the enemy was really slinging mud every time I would take a step forward. But through Kevin, I was able to learn those patterns, and I was able to get over it. And I just, that has been, it's so funny, Matt. A couple weeks ago, this happened. I had a very specific prayer I was praying, a very specific financial prayer I was praying, and then the very next day, the enemy hit me with something super hard. And I thought, you know what, 2 years ago, this would have taken me 2 or 3 weeks to work through, to get over, to not spiral out of control. But it was a couple hours, and I was like, oh, this is just the enemy trying to stomp on my vision, and it's just not going to happen.
Amen.
So working with Kevin has really helped me. And I feel like I have a pretty good example. I was flipping through my Bible last night. Whenever I first started talking to Kevin, I bought a new Bible with the intention of just making notes in the sidelines as I'm working through this process. And so I was flipping through and I saw a note, and I think it perfectly exemplifies how I was feeling then and how this process has brought me into the person I am today. So I made a note, and this was August 27th of 2018, which is almost 2 years ago to the day. The note says, I started to read this out loud and started crying. Tonight, I am sad. And I'm going to read this passage to you. It's very short, but it is Psalm 40, 1 through 3. And it says, I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. 2 years ago, I was sad and reading that out loud and crying. And today I can't imagine reading that passage without being absolutely joyful.
Yes.
So that is just, I think that's just a testament to the work God has done in my heart and my spirit over the last 2 years with you guys.
Well, we will stand here with you and just give all honor and glory and praise to him. And, you know, I love that because I know you, and I know that whole idea of a song in your heart. Like, I just know just you were created to dance, right? That's just part of who Rachel
Yes.
is you love to
Always
dance.
dancing.
Yeah. And so it's beautiful. And I just think that what a testimony to God's faithfulness for somebody who is in that season, who it does feel hopeless, it does feel helpless. And what your passion is emerging as is someone to be an advocate for others in that season. And so that kind of brings us full circle to, you know, where we are now as an organization to launch these life center communities. And, you know, Kevin and I have been walking this out for the last couple of years now, and we continue to see what God's doing. And this is the church in action. It's really the idea of people coming and bringing what they have, even their troubles and struggles, and being discipled and working together, and then turning around and birthing out their unique DNA and kingdom genius and kingdom value into the earth. And so it's part of the mission of the Life Center is not only walking with people to provide the physical needs, to provide the spiritual discipleship or whatnot, but also to provide a context or an environment where they can launch, if you will, from that, be a part of a greater community, be a part of a family, which you are, and then begin to live out why God put them here. And so in walking with you, there's a couple of areas that have emerged that you're passionate about, kind of advocacy pieces, right? And so as we've taught on the show before for folks who have watched, you know, part of our 4 points of purpose are helping people connect their outer self, which is their passion, with that inner desire, that compassion, which is the advocacy. And so that's happening for you, and we're excited to partner with you as we together kind of launch out this portable single moms community. And then we're going to talk a little bit about your vision for a type 1 community as well. So let's start with the single moms community, because, Rachel, I'm telling you, we know, you know, and I know, and I'm telling our listeners now, the power behind this, and it's just incredible. And it's so needed right now. So we're just excited. But talk a little bit about it.
Sure. One thing I know that I was created to do, and I've known this for a long time, is that I was supposed to use my struggles. I am supposed to use my struggles to help other people. And it's been several months, and really Kevin introduced the idea. I had kind of been feeling like, oh man, I really want to help other single moms. I know what it's like to walk through this, and wow, it's tough. And it's not just tough for moms of babies or moms of toddlers. It's tough for moms of teens and moms of adults. It is just a season of life that is really hard. And I can't imagine not having a community of people to walk through this with. So my goal for this community is really just to provide resources and a spirit-led environment for people to navigate their season with, whether they need a little bit of help, whether they're just like, oh my gosh, my life is a mess. I am just out here spread out on the floor, like I was when I first came to UPrint. I want to be there to help guide them and guide them in a group in a way that is very unique to them.
Yeah.
And it is open. I mean, it's open to everyone. Like I said, being a single mom isn't just hard for moms of babes. It is hard for all single moms. And so that's why it doesn't matter how old you are or how old your kids are. All single moms are welcome into this community.
Absolutely. Well, I love the concept of tying in your experiences, right? Because that's what begins to shape you. It's what gives you authority. It's what gives you wisdom, because you've navigated that. And so kind of taking that experience and then turning that for good, right? Romans 8 talks about the Lord using all things for those, for the good, for those who are called according to his purpose. So you're taking a painful moment and you're using that as an opportunity to connect with another person, to let them know that in the midst of this difficulty that God still wants to use it for good. And, the beautiful part about this is not only the community dynamic of having someone to walk with, or a collective group of individuals to walk with, but it's also kind of these resources that are being developed. And a lot of these resources are resources that you've been able to walk through, really helping people understand how to navigate adversity, how to navigate challenges, how to navigate and discover that purpose and really walk through it. So it's not just about it's not a coping mechanism, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like, there's an aspect of that, but it's also this kind of forward-moving teaching dynamic as well. And so as that's emerged, talk a little bit about the response that you've seen, because, you posted this incredible video on social media, and the last time I saw it, it was like getting shared left and right and thousands of views, all this kind of stuff. So talk a little bit about just talk about like where you see it going and how the response has been.
It's been incredible. I was very nervous to post anything, really. But this is such a big thing in my life, and it's so important and so precious to me that I just remember sitting on my bed, and I had it ready to go. I had the post. All I had to do was press post, and I was just hovering. My thumb was just hovering. And I thought, just do it, Rachel, just do it. And I remember thinking, I'm going to wait till after work hours so I'm not distracted or keep on checking to see what the response is like or what's going on. So I was waiting till after hours. And so I waited and I waited, and I was like, all right, it's just time. And so I clicked post, and I put down my phone, and I just cried. I cried because I knew that this was what I was supposed to do. This is that God, I really felt God in my room that night. He was my biggest cheerleader. He was patting me on the back. He had pom-poms. He was so proud of me, and I could feel that. And I was just so happy. It was tears of joy. And gosh, just immediately there were people commenting and sharing and messaging me. People I haven't talked to in a decade or more. And they were immediately saying, oh my gosh, I need this. I want in. It's like, I don't really even need to know anymore. I am just ready to step in. And there's a need for community anyway, just in general. I feel like we've gotten pretty used to just connecting on Facebook or doing bite-sized nuggets of conversation. And really, we need some deep communication in our lives. But people were sharing things with me that I didn't expect them to share right off the bat without even having a conversation. But already I'm seeing themes of fear and guilt and shame and all things that I felt as I started to walk through this. And so it was just confirmation that, wow, this is what the world needs right now.
Yes.
And I'm so excited and grateful for everyone who's been commenting and sharing. Thank you guys so much, because that's really helpful, even if it's not your particular season of life. Just being willing to help that person who that is their season of life is so wonderful.
Well, what's so beautiful about it to me is that, when you step into that environment, it kind of lets you know that there's this feeling that I was made for this, right? And that's not a position of arrogance, right? It's just knowing your God and knowing who he's called you to be and saying, this is what I
Yes.
was made for. And you're stepping into that moment with confidence. And what I love about the way the Life Center communities have really begun to evolve and come forth as they've been birthed is it's everything about Rachel and who God's made you to be and your experiences and your wisdom, and you have an opportunity to step out. But it's also the fact that you are tied intimately to a greater family and a greater community of resources, so that when you encounter folks who have additional needs, right, spiritual needs and others, then the Life Center is there to provide those resources through the Portable Faith community and the other services that we provide. And so it's kind of this beautiful thing to me as I see it. It's like the best of both worlds. It's niche specific to the person, but then it has a library of wisdom and encouragement and mentoring and all that's tied into Life Center that's intimately connected with it. So someone who belongs to the Portable Single Moms community has access to all of the other resources as well. And that is just, that's really, really profound.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is because we're not all just dealing with one thing. I, as a single mom, am not only dealing with being a single mom. I'm dealing with working from home. I'm dealing with living with a chronic illness during a pandemic. There's just so many things we're dealing with on top of this one specific area.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just so excited about, because it provides people a way to get connected, but then there's kind of like this treasure trove, if you will, of additional resources as folks become ready to engage. And so with all that being said, I want to provide kind of some ways that folks can kind of get connected, because this is not limited to Nashville. Because
Correct.
Part of the vision of Uprint and how we innovate is utilizing technology as a way to connect people and deliver content, information, and teaching. The Portable Faith community and the Portable Single Moms community is not just limited to that geographic location. So, we want to let the folks in our city, Wilmington, southeastern North Carolina, know that this Portable Single Moms community is something that they can be a part of as well. And so with all that being said, we have the technology in play to be able to steward that, but also, too, to see where the Lord might take it. And one of the things that you had a vision for, Rachel, is starting to see communities like this. And we don't want to jump ahead of the Lord, but talk about the vision about where you see this going.
Oh, I just envision this popping up all over the world. I mean, certainly I have a vision for not only right now in this virtual community, I've got women from California to Chicago to Wilmington in it. They're ready to go all over. But as we move into a non-pandemic world, I want to go places. I want to go to Oregon and Florida and Texas, and I want to build these communities in person and just help other women meet in person in real life and have people to not just spiritually but physically walk through this with. And I am so excited for that. That is a for sure thing that I have been getting from the Lord.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going to happen. It could be next year. It could be 10 years from now. But we definitely have the foundation now. We are laying the foundation now so that when the Lord says, okay, it's time to go, we are ready to go.
Amen. Well, I love it because, part of what you and I both have learned from Kevin is to let go of the how and how long. and
Yes,
so, I mean,
yes.
I know he said that to me like 467 times,
Yes.
last week.
Right.
Letting go of the how and how long and just letting God show up and do what he wants to do in his timing is really where we are. So, we've got like probably 4 minutes or so before we wrap up the call, but I want to make sure that folks know how to get connected to the Portable Faith community, and so and therefore how to get connected to the Single Moms community. So if anyone's interested in reaching out and learning more about this, getting connected to the Single Moms community, getting connected to Rachel, you can go to uprint.life. That's youprint.life. And once you're there, you can click on Join Community or Get Started, and that'll get you plugged into the Portable Faith community. And as part of that, there is a kind of customizable aspect where you can begin to highlight this, your needs, desires, interests, etc. And that's what will kind of get you into contact with us in those areas. If you also, too, just want to reach out, you can do so, info@uprint.life, info@uprint.life. And if you want to get connected with Rachel, we can certainly make that happen. But I want to let people know this is how you get plugged in. And by getting plugged in, you're actually participating. It's $10 a month to join, kind of be a member. But that's actually a tax-deductible donation that goes to the work of the Life Center to continue to help folks like Rachel, develop down the road. And Rachel, that's one part we've left off here, because by people participating in this, it's actually they're sowing seed into the rest of the community as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's super cool to see that. So kind of as we wrap up today too, Rachel, you're stepping into the portable single moms community, and folks starting to step in with you is kind of giving you vision too to start to consider the idea of the portable type 1 community, etc. Talk a little bit about that and your passion there. I think you're working on starting a podcast. There's some stuff going on with that too.
Yeah, I hope that my passion for the single moms community has come through, but that same passion lies for people with type 1. I have had type 1 for 15 years, and the day I was diagnosed, I said out loud to myself, I'm going to use this for good. And it has been a consistent area in my life where I get to help people with type 1. I mean, my full-time job right now is working for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. I talk to newly diagnosed families every single day. I get to help raise funds for important research, for better therapies for people with type 1, and for eventually a cure. But right now, the biggest need is just a mental aspect of living with a chronic illness 365 that takes no breaks. And so I'm very passionate about helping people navigate living with this disease with a positive spirit.
Yeah. And you are just so good at it. I mean, that's what you were created for. So kind of as we wrap up, this, Rachel, just thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share. Thank you for being courageous enough to step in. And as we kind of close up, is there anything you want to say to kind of a single mom out there maybe who's listening, and just as a parting word of encouragement?
Sure. I know it's scary, but just take the step. Just go to the website. Just look it up. I'm serious. It changed my life. It saved my life, and I can't imagine going through this without the help that I've had the last 2 years.
Well, friend, you're a blessing, and can't wait when we get to connect again in person to see your big smiling face. And
yes.
So our audience, we're so grateful for you, Rachel. Thank you so much for taking time today. Go kiss and love on little Noah, and have an awesome rest of your week. To all of our listeners, again, many thanks to Rachel, one of our portable our Life Center community leaders, the single moms community, all that's developing there. Go to uprint.life, youprint.life, to get plugged in and begin to learn more. We're going to take a short break and right back with Crystal Sutherland of Journey to Heal Ministries. Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith, the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. We are live streaming every single Wednesday on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We are also rebroadcast every weekend, Saturday and Sunday mornings on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. I am simply one half of the duo, if you will, of Matt Ham and Kevin Adams. Kevin is the co-founder of UPrint, as well as the Life Center, along with myself, his wife Holly. Kevin is not with us today in the studio, but that's because we are talking about kind of Life Center communities and how they're launched out, people who are kind of partners with us, living out their God-given design in this community to really shift the geography and the environment around them for the kingdom, and how we kind of collaborate and work together to do that. During our first segment today, we heard from Rachel Mayo, our dear friend and sister who lives in Nashville, who's launched the Portable Single Moms Community, a little bit about her vision, testimony. And then now in studio, we are joined by Crystal Sutherland, with Journey to Heal Ministries. So, Crystal, can't wait for you to share. Real quick, I'm going to recognize some of our corporate partners, and then we're going to dive in. So our corporate partners are who make the show possible. One of them is Melissa Thomas. Melissa the Coach, as she is known, can be found online, melissathecoach.com. And she's a speaker, personal finance coach who really helps people simplify their lives so they can step into their purpose. You can connect with her, Melissa the Coach, at gmail.com or via the phone at 910-338-9612. Also, the Rising Tide Real Estate Team, a full-service real estate brokerage team here in Wilmington, helping buyers and sellers in a crazy real estate market right now. Make sure you reach out to them, 910-620-7177. Also, too, Physical Therapy Services of Wilmington. That's ptservicesofwilmington.com on the web, serving southeastern North Carolina since 1983. Family-owned and operated. You can connect with them, 910-763-8286. The Honeycutt Group, a full-service insurance brokerage, home, auto, life insurance, all of your needs there. Reach out to the Honeycutt Group, 910-338-1773. We also have a partnership with Journey to Heal Ministries, and that is who is in studio with us today, Crystal Sutherland. It's been awesome to get to know you, friend, and love the work that you do. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So it's been a minute since you've been on air with us, but you have pretty much done nothing during that time. I mean, you haven't been busy at all. God's not been moving.
Not at all. It's just been, we've just been sitting around sipping mint juleps and watching Netflix.
Amen. Well, so talk to me about how the Lord has been moving in Journey to Heal, the work that you guys do, and feel free to kind of create context of what Journey to Heal is, etc.
Sure. So Journey to Heal, just for those that don't know, we are a 100% volunteer-run nonprofit here in Wilmington, and we do serve the Wilmington local community primarily and surrounding, communities, but we're also nationwide. Mm-hmm. And so we were founded in 2018 as a nonprofit, so just a couple of years old, still kind of a baby organization, but the ministry's been around for a while, and really kind of came out of a book that I wrote called Journey to Heal, which is for survivors of childhood sexual abuse, really just sexual abuse in general. And so that's our focus, is particularly helping survivors heal from past sexual trauma by leading them to hope in Christ. And we do that through providing education, support, and life-giving community. And, I think since the last time that we were on your show and I had a chance to share about the story of Journey to Heal and a little bit about my story and kind of how the ministry came about. And then I think Emily, one of our board members, came on and shared about Hope Run too at a different time. But since then, we just continue to grow. So I kind of just jotted down a few little things to kind of bring you up to speed on what we're doing. I guess the focal point of our ministry is the support groups and the one-to-one mentoring that we provide. And we provide those groups both locally, but then also across the nation. And the way that we do that is locally, we operate out of local churches. One of our major partners is Port City Community Church. And so since we met last year, we've just been doing a whole lot of groups. When COVID hit, in March, we had to move our groups to Zoom, meet on Zoom. And then in addition to that, as far as being nationwide, we host a group online. And we have women from all over the country that take part in that. And so we have hosted several since we've met last.
Yeah.
Face-to-face groups and online groups. Another thing that we've done is we have a mentor program that we developed a couple years ago, and it was for women who they were going through our group, they were kind of reaching a certain place in their own journey of healing, and they were like, I really want to come alongside someone else. I want to bring this study or this group, I want to bring this resource to my church or to my community. And so we developed a mentor training program for volunteer mentors, which is literally women who have gone through the Journey to Heal study and who are survivors themselves and really feel like they've reached a certain place in their healing, they can come alongside someone else. And so we've trained several more across the country and have started to plug them into people who reach out to us on our website for one-to-one mentoring, and we kind of, for lack of a better phrase, just connect them, with our mentors across the country that seem to fit or might be local to them or that sort of thing. And that's been working out very, very well. We have 33 mentors across the country that have taken the training, and probably I'd say maybe 15 of them are active.
Okay.
Which is phenomenal considering
Sure.
you're dealing with volunteers and you're dealing with people who are still on their healing journey themselves.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So since we met last, we've trained several more and added more, to our fold. And then we also started because of the need that was just becoming evident in the course of our relationship with Port City Church, but then also the Overflow Ministry, the college ministry there. We have started and have had our first college-age girls group.
Okay.
And that actually happened during, it was supposed to be face-to-face in March, but then, COVID hit. And so we took it via Zoom and had both, girls taking that group, but then also girls that we were mentoring one-to-one. So that's pretty cool. We also, since the last time we met, golly, we've done several things. We've hosted our 4th annual women's conference in November of last year. And again, women from all over the country, primarily from North Carolina and Virginia and Tennessee, came to that. And that's just an awesome weekend. We're doing our 5th one in November of this year. And we're doing it here locally in Wilmington, both virtually and in person.
Okay.
And super excited about that. We actually have a gal you might be familiar with, Leslie Brooks. Well, it's Lisa Brooks with Wilmington Thrive Tribes.
Okay.
And she's 20 plus years in counseling. Now she has this Wilmington Thrive Tribes, which is like a mentoring kind of program for women to empower women. But her focus was and is sexual trauma recovery. And so she kind of brings that to the table for us this year. We're very excited to have her at Hope Restored. And then, we've done a lot of different things behind the scenes that we're hoping to launch either September, October. One of them is a men's or a male survivor resource page on our website. It's been in the works since early part of this year. We've had a couple hiccups because of COVID. We had hoped to be able to offer an actual men's study by April of this year. That, of course, didn't pan out, and with just the changes and things that have happened, within our organization because of COVID and people having to really kind of focus on their families and their work or their businesses, we've had to kind of put that on hold. But the resource page for men, because we do get asked a lot, do you have resources for men? Do you have, what can you recommend that can help me or that can help my son?
Right.
And it's interesting because during COVID, or during the height of it, as the pandemic was kind of unfolding and things were, we were all just kind of traumatized by this. We got so many reach outs from local community, but also just across the nation, asking for one-to-one mentoring, even parents asking for their adult children, either male or female. I mean, it was interesting, and I think that it's because this pandemic has triggered past trauma for people, because it's traumatic for all of us. And I also think people are desperately needing community.
Sure.
So we hope to get that launched late September, October. And then one of our board members, since we met last, one of our board members who is a licensed counselor, she's 13 some odd years in private practice, specializes in PTSD recovery as well as sexual trauma recovery. Her name is Maggie McLam, and she's with New Pathways Counseling. She had it on her heart, God put on her heart last year to start a faith-based rape crisis group.
Okay.
Because there isn't anything like that we're aware of in Wilmington. Mm-hmm. And so as particularly as students at UNCW were reaching out to us through various, means, the underlying issue was sexual assault.
Yes.
That was happening in freshman or sophomore year. And that is heartbreaking.
Yes.
And so to refer them somewhere, we would want to refer them to a Christ-centered group, and we couldn't find anything. Mm. So Maggie wrote, using her expertise, she wrote a wonderful 6-week program that we plan to launch mid-September at Port City.
Well, it's just incredible to hear. Thank you for sharing everything.
Absolutely.
Just about all the updates. The work that you do is so unique, specific, and it's so needed. And what I love about it, and what we love about it, is the common heart that exists between the work of Life Center and what you do at Journey to Heal.
Yeah.
And, in talking with Rachel about how these portable community expressions begin to be birthed, you and I kind of joked about this. It was like, God already did that with this. It's like, this is the idea, is Crystal is living out her God-given genius and pouring into her community. And since we connected a couple years ago, now there's a conduit connection between Life Center and what you do to move a common vision, forward.
Yeah.
And so we fully support you in that any way we can, and as you support us. And that's the kingdom.
Yeah.
That's the kingdom.
It's true.
And so it's utilizing your experiences, your wisdom, what God's given you, pouring out through you, taking that into this niche community, and then blessing them with that, but also too while being connected to the greater body.
Yes.
And so, for you, with I want to talk about with COVID, like you said, it really brought forth more trauma, and we don't like in culture to talk about human trafficking. We don't like to talk about sexual abuse. We don't like to talk about sexual addictions. We don't like, these are the taboo things, but they plague the people, and they keep the people from fully being able to step into their Christ-centered identities, because they've been so harmed and so hurt by something so intimate, right? So talk a little bit about how can you begin to help people to awaken to the reality that it's okay to reach out for help, like it's okay to get beyond the veil, beyond the the taboo, like the vulnerability.
I think it literally, it's what we're doing right now. We're talking about it. And when we do that, we're breaking the silence and shattering stigmas that are around that, the stigma of shame, just like what you were referring to. So I think that one of the most important things to do for someone who's a survivor is to talk about it. Find someone you can trust. We highly recommend, either a Christian counselor that specializes in this area, that has knowledge and wisdom concerning sexual trauma recovery, or maybe a pastor or lay leader in a church who has that either experience or expertise or understanding, or even us at Journey to Heal Ministries. It's really important to talk about it. And then on the flip side of that, for supporters, for people that don't have that in their life personally, but they know someone who has, or maybe a family member who has, or maybe their spouse does, or their child does. It's really important to allow space, a safe place to talk about that.
Yeah.
And to not add to the shame by saying, "Oh, we need to forget. We need to forgive and forget. We don't need to talk about that. You need to let that go. Don't dwell on the past." All that stuff. That's not helpful. It's actually harmful.
Well, I think you brought up an interesting point. I think one of the challenges we face with kind of the way and the model of kind of church culture, right, is sexual things are just generally not talked about, right? They're just, we don't talk about those things.
Right.
And even with pastors, like you said, is that they might not be equipped.
Yeah.
And so this isn't a condemnation. It's to say that's why Crystal Sutherland is here. You know what I mean? And this is your genius lived out. You have the experience, you have the capacity and the ability and the time and all of that stuff to focus in on helping people overcome sexual trauma, right? Yeah. Just like, we focus on discipleship and birthing purpose and kind of overcoming strongholds. So once you start to see is the way the body was created is individual expressions. This finger is needed just like my pinky toe down here is needed. It's not separate from the body, right? And so helping people see that and being able to step in, and just say, hey, create an environment and a space to be able to talk about this because you have to.
Yeah, you got to. And then as a part of what we do at Journey to Heal is very much like what you do with the Life Center and with your ministry, and that is we disciple women. I mean, in essence, that is what our study does, is it draws women closer to Christ because that's where our hope is. That's where our healing is in a personal relationship with Him. And so the whole focus of our study is, yes, to provide that safe place to talk about this and to unpack their stories and to find community with other women who are walking that same path. But underlying underneath that and really honestly the center and focus of it is leading them to hope in Christ.
Yeah.
And through a relationship and teaching them, hey, you can take this ugly, awful thing that happened to you to the Lord. He's not ashamed of you. He isn't looking at you differently because this happened to you. He loves you and He's near you and He wants to heal you. And so just trying to kind of bridge that, that gap in that relationship.
So, part of kind of the work you do, being a nonprofit, just like us, there's the whole concept of 501c3 and, people being able to donate and support this. A lot of the work that we do, I know, and when we engage with somebody, there's many times when we engage and there is no financial support there. It's we're pouring into people who need it because we have others that allow us the capacity to do that. And so a part of any nonprofit work is that type of work. And so you guys have a big fundraising run that is coming up called the Hope Run, and you've got the hat here on the table that we'll pass along to Kevin because I already got mine. And I told you I'd rep it, and I did.
And you did.
So talk about the Hope Run, because that was one of the ways that we wanted to come alongside and help tell people about the Hope Run. And of course, we're a partner with you guys in that, so we'll have a table present, etc.
Yes.
But talk a little about, because this has been it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, but here it comes. Here it comes.
Yeah, it's coming. It is happening. I knock on, if this is wood, I don't know. But anyway, yes, the Hope Run. So this is our second annual Hope Run. We did this on just hope and a prayer last year because it was just something that God laid on our heart. We thought it was a great way to raise awareness, to draw the community together, and wow, the Lord blew our doors off. Your support and you, Prince, support last year was very helpful, and the community just really kind of, I think it shocked us all. We had 250 runners last year, local and virtual combined, and lots of sponsors. It was just incredible. This year, because of COVID, of course, we've had to, it was supposed to happen during Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month in April, but we all know that, couldn't happen, and tried it again in June, and that couldn't happen, and so we moved it to September. But the goal is still the same, and that is to raise awareness. By default, we raise funds, and we really trust God for that. It is our one and only fundraiser. It's the only big thing that we do in terms of raising funds. The rest of it, we rely on private donations. But the main focus of it is to say, hey, this is an ongoing issue, and it is an epidemic in our culture, whether it's sexual assault, abuse, whether it's human trafficking, whether it's something that happened in someone's childhood or adulthood, or it doesn't matter. This is an ongoing issue because, and the statistics are profound. I think the Rape and Incest National Network updated statistics at the latter part of last year, and just based on reported cases, this is just based on reported cases, every 73 seconds, someone in America is sexually assaulted, and every 9 minutes, that someone is a child. This is an ongoing problem that's being fueled by our culture, a very over-sexualized culture. The pornography culture was it's just unbelievable, you know, how that's happening. And so we have to keep raising awareness. We have to keep shining a light in this dark place so that, number one, so that survivors know, hey, we know you're there and we see you and we're here. But then also so that the average person in public is at least made aware of, hey, this is a thing, this is an issue. Because I think at the end of the day, we all know someone who has experienced this.
Well, the issue itself is an issue that it's a lot easier to sweep it under the rug than actually to look at it and face it, because it's dark and it's ugly, and it reveals a lot of, like you said, shame and stigmas and all that kind of stuff. And so, we're here in the middle of a pandemic, and everybody's talking about the pandemic. And this is a epidemic, right? And that's profound to consider. Yeah. But notice that, media's not giving attention to this. It just doesn't happen.
No.
And so we're here to say, wake up. Yes. This is actually really what's going on underneath the surface. Yes. And so we're here to walk with people through that. Yeah. So the Hope Run is a great way to begin the process of raising awareness. Yeah. How can people local to the Wilmington surrounding area get plugged in to the Hope Run?
They can go, there's a couple different ways they can do it. Go Time is our race producer this year, and so they can literally go to our race website at its-go-time.com /JTHM Hope Run. They got to put some dashes in there. The other thing that they can do is they could go to journeytohealministries.org /Hope Run. That might be the easiest because there's a lot of dashes in the race website. But if they go to journeytohealministries.org /Hope Run, they will see all the details about the race. They can, if they're not comfortable racing, the date is September 13th. It's a Sunday. Check-in is at 4. The race actually starts at 5:30. So it's in the late afternoon. It's at Longleaf Park, formerly I think Hugh McRae, and it's just going to be a fun atmosphere. We've got we have over 100 runners registered, and some of them are virtual, most of them are local, but we have made it possible that if local runners are like, you know what, I don't want to take a chance of getting sick or getting someone else sick, so they can actually run the race virtually. And so all that information is on the race website at journeytohealministries.org /Hope Run.
So we've got journeytohealministries.org /Hope Run. I just put that in the comment thread here on Facebook for our radio listeners. journeytohealministries.org /Hope Run. We would highly encourage people to get out and get involved in this. And again, we understand everybody's coming with a different experience, a different understanding. So it's not like some cataclysmic thing we're trying to shift culture by saying get out. But I do think it's healthy, right, to be outside and to come and participate in something like this that has a cause that can really begin to shift the environment around us. And again, I just feel like it's good for us to get back to doing things like this.
I agree.
And even if you do run virtually, you're still participating in something that's kind of greater, and that's good. I'm going to be honest, I need to put some work in if I'm going to be trying to run. Last year, you made me put a tutu on.
And this year, we have one. We have one reserved for you, Matt.
Yeah. So that means I have to run the 5K. It's like back in the day, I used to race triathlons, and when we were doing this last year, I was like, oh, come on, this is just 5K. I can do this. About 2
miles in, you're like, I can't breathe.
I've been eating too many hamburgers and hot dogs, Well,
I will say, you bring up a good point. I will say people can walk it. We have a 1.5 mile walk, or the 5K run. So you can do either.
I might power walk this thing in my tutu. It might take
go.
me 45 minutes,
Hey.
but we'll get there. No more running. Yeah. So Emily just commented, "We have a tutu with your name on it." Of course you do, because you know I'll wear it.
I know.
Absolutely.
That's right. We appreciate that.
Well, I think it's great, and part of kind of the cool thing for us too as an organization is to come underneath and around and alongside folks like yourself who are living out kingdom purpose, and just to say this matters in this community.
Yeah,
this matters in this community, and for you guys, it's been probably a year now when you reached out and said, "Hey, we want to partner with you guys in Life Center work," and so it's like this to me is, when you get into the Word, and I don't want to get into some like platform here and preach, but unity, unity, right? This is why Jesus came, that they might know that we are one because they are one, right? Yeah. And so this expression of unity where people are coming together for a common cause in the kingdom, it has a different expression, but it all works in the same vein to move the ball down the field and to move it forward. It's just amazing. Yeah. Because, if someone came to me as a survivor of sexual trauma or struggling with that, I can guarantee you that is not my area, right, of expertise. That's why you're here. And so it's always great to be with you and just the light that you bring in. And so, we've got like another couple of minutes before we wrap up. Is there anything else kind of in closing you want to share for the listeners?
I think I would just encourage, if you're going through a season, I think we all are. This is an odd, strange time. And maybe there's some things in your past that have just kind of cropped up that you've been able to cope with or ignore or set aside. If you need to talk to someone, if it's trauma related, either reach out to a Christian counselor, locally. If it has to do with sexual trauma, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Definitely reach out to us at journeytohealministries.org. Just talk about it. It's okay, and it's a good thing to do because we're all in this together, and we're all experiencing some kind of shift or change or even trauma.
Yeah.
And so it's normal to maybe feel off and a little,
sure,
hurting.
No doubt. And I'm going to come back and say, reach out to us at UPrint. I mean, we're here for you guys in that regard. And one of the things about what we do and how we do it is when we connect with people, we have a dynamic community that can serve you. And so we long to be, and part of the Life Center is to come into this kind of hub and then be sent to where you need to go. So just folks know that it's okay to reach out. It's okay to raise your hand. It's okay to say, I need to talk to somebody.
Yes.
I'm not doing okay. I'm hungry to grow in my faith, or whatever the case might be.
Yes.
So just be empowered to reach out. I mean, we're here for you. Of course, Crystal and her group, Rachel from our first segment, for those of single moms. But you can do that at uprint.life in regards to getting in touch with us, youprint.life. Crystal and her team at journeytohealministries.org. We so appreciate you, Crystal, jumping on today. We're wrapping. Absolutely, always. You're always welcome. We are wrapping up the show. Do get plugged into the Hope Run. We're here if anybody needs us. But like I said, don't be shy. Don't be quiet. Now is a time and opportunity to step up and step out. So we're here for you guys. But thanks so much for joining us, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.